Well, Erik Samuelson, great to see you down here at Plough Lane for the launch of the new book. How have you been and how's Eileen?
Really well, thank you, very well. We're missing access to our friends and particularly our family, but physically we're in good shape and in that respect life is okay. It's good, thank you.
So, all together now, the extraordinary story of AFC Wimbledon. Tell us about the book, how it came about.
I just thought, years ago I read a book by a player called Gary Nelson. I'd never heard of him. He described himself as a journeyman footballer. And what it did was it described the inner workings of what it's like to be a professional footballer, but not a Galactico. And I thought it gave me such an insight into how that works. I thought there's an equivalent to be done for a club side of things. So I thought it would be a chance for fans and also non-Wimbledon fans even to understand and know a bit more about how football clubs work. So I wanted to do that, and also I just thought in 17 years I was right at the centre of it, and I thought that gave me the chance of a unique insight, and I wanted to write about it.
How have you found the process, though, of going from retiring as CEO to then all of a sudden taking on writing a book that's over 400 pages? That's a lot of work.
Yeah, at first I went about it the way I went about giving up smoking. I told so many people I was going to do it that I felt I had no obligation other than to get on with it. And I think my first interview was about 6 months after I retired. And after that, once you've interviewed somebody and told them what you're doing, you sort of, well, I better do it now. I found the process, I didn't find it particularly difficult to map out what the process was going to be and how to go about it. I absolutely loved talking to people about what they'd done at the club, but also some outliers, you might say, some other people that are not obvious ones I particularly wanted to talk to. So, for example, I had a long chat to Gary Brabin, the Luton manager, about what it's like to be on the losing end of the penalty shootout. Because I thought that gave me an insight, and there's one particular thing he told me, I thought, blimey. But also, it stops it being just about us, it gives both sides of the story. So I loved all of that. I found the writing a grind. You have to make yourself sit down and do it. I'm easily distracted, and so several times a day it would be time to make a cup of tea, time to check on the test match score, time to check the news. And the one thing that the pandemic had been a horrendous thing with almost nothing positively said about it, except that for me it had made me focus. I didn't know where to go. I had to do it. So, well, yeah, it took me 18 months from first interview to it being signed off, and I don't want to write another one.
So give us some names. Who's in the book? Who interviews? Have you
Well,
done?
the obvious people: Terry Brown, Dave Anderson, Neil Ardley, Ivor Heller, Trevor Williams, who's a wealth of fantastic stories. Simon Bassey, who of course was with the club actually about 2 months longer than me. But then some others, like I interviewed the David Fox from the London FA, who got us into the FA, and Alan Constable, who stepped in when we couldn't get into the Ryman League. I interviewed Nick Robinson, the secretary of the Ryman League, about what really happened and why we didn't get in. I interviewed the club secretary of Accrington Stanley to find out exactly what happened when the floodlights went off, 5 minutes from the end of our from our second leg playoff. And I just tried to think a little bit outside the box. I'm not the most imaginative of people, but I thought those would be interesting people to talk to. And then a lot of people who did work behind the scenes that you would just not normally see or hear of. I wanted to get them in the book.
Tell us about the title of the book. How did that come about?
Well, I think I've already said I'm really easily distracted. And in one day in particular, I just don't want to do this. I started thinking of chapter titles that were pop songs. And you can probably tell when I listen to my music and what music I listen to from the ones I chose. It hasn't worked all the way through. There's some chapters where I used pop culture, like The Pretenders, rather than a song. But I won't tell you who that's about, but you can probably guess. And then I was wondering about a title for the book, and Altogether Now popped into my mind. And when I researched it, I realised that the song By the Farm is actually about the the famous football match on Christmas Day in the First World War. And I thought, well, that really is a good fortune, serendipity. And it's also really about, because the book is really about all the people who contributed to where we are today. It's by no means an autobiography. It's about I don't know, there's at least 100 people, probably 200 people named in the book for their contributions to who we are and what we are now.
So that's really what you set out to do with the book, yeah? Now you're seeing it in first time in print here today, yeah?
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen it, first time I've touched it. It's a very strange feeling because I am really pleased I did it. In many ways, I'd be quite happy just to put it down and say, if you're interested, have a look. It's not me to be promoting things. It's just not my style, not my comfort zone. But needs must. I've been told by the publishers I'm supposed to, so I will. And I look at it and think, God, that's my name on there. How strange. But really, it is about that couple of hundred people. It's not. It's far from being about me.
Interesting. Also, proceeds for the book will be going towards the club through here?
Well, I don't know how this works, but my understanding is, well, what I'd say is if you, I'm not urging anyone to buy the book, but if you decide to buy it, please buy it from the club because a significant proportion of the amount you pay for it goes to the club, the rest to the publisher. And I was told before I started writing this, so before I'd found a publisher, to keep my expectations in shape, that if I did really well with this book, I might get a holiday out of it. So this is not about money for me. And indeed, if I do make a profit, a chunk of that will be paid to the AFC Wimbledon Foundation, where I've been chair for the last several years.
Fantastic. I've got to say as well, I think it was about 2 or 4 years ago that we were doing a meeting in your office at the Cherry Red Record Stadium when you were going through the stages of how the stadium was going to come about. Here we are today in the club shop at Plough Lane. The stadium is built. How do you feel?
Well, first of all, I look around the shop and think, this is a damn sight better than the old shop, isn't it? It's much significantly bigger, better laid out. I'm sure there's new stock of material, replicas, shirts, etc. to come in for the new season. But I came to the first game against Doncaster and really missed there being fans there. But I just think it's a stadium, it's our stadium. The rest of it is almost academic. And there's many changes from the designs that I first was involved with to make it more commercially viable, like the way the shop's been done, the introduction of a pub, all that sort of stuff, which should be Joe's responsibility to get that done, and the reason he was recruited. So it looks quite different, but nonetheless it's still our stadium, and there's masses for everybody to be proud about in that, masses.
I mean, we're here today for the launch of the book, but outside, you know, you've got a vaccination centre, you've got
Yep.
a school's football tournament going, and this is what it should be, at the heart of the community, yeah?
Yeah, it's a community club, and that means we have to demonstrate on a regular basis. And it's not just what's happening here, but I know that the foundation now has a base here. The Don's Local Action Group has regular use of the facilities, and I think we have demonstrated over the last year the combined club. It's a very loose we, as far as I'm concerned. Just how much an integral part of the community we are. And that's essential. And that's, again, coming back to the book, that's what it's meant to be about, a community of people who made this stadium happen. So
you have played an enormous role in getting us here. The book is out now, it's £19.99, it's fantastic. But what next for Erik Samuelson? You're going to enjoy some football?
Yeah, I want to watch some football. I'm biding my time. As we come out of lockdown, I'm hoping I'll be able to spend some time, closer time with my family. I have some things I want to do on my bucket list. You know, I think it's unlikely, but I'd love to go and see the Ashes in Australia this winter. But also, I need something to do, to be busy with. Eileen has a mantra that marriage is for life but not for lunch. She doesn't want me hanging around and moping around the place, so I'm going to have to find something to do. I'm sure I will, and some of it will be associated with just coming here to enjoy games and going to away games and not being worried in the same way I was when the result doesn't go our way. It's no longer with respect to everybody who's still involved, it's no longer my responsibility, and that's quite a relief after 17 years.
Well, Eric, good luck with the booking. It's great to see you.
Thank you very much indeed.